We're live. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Zach. We're here for part 2 of the beginning and my walk with God. So if you didn't watch part 1, go ahead and watch part 1. But part 2, we're going to speak about the second half of my life. But we're not going to go all the way. So last night or this morning, whenever it was, in the middle of the night, I had a great conversation with the mighty master, Lord Jesus Christ, and it was like, we have to break out and can't give everyone the whole story up to date, because what you've been through in your 25 up to 30 and up to 40 is really going to take up a lot of time. And these are things that have come to me in my sleep, because I forgot about all this stuff. When we start to overcome the challenges that we've been through, we have built ourselves through it, we have grown through it, yet we totally let go of the story of it. And that is telling me that I've overcome some challenges at that time. So this part of this video is really about speaking about the ages of 25 to 40. And the reason I'm sticking to 25 to 40, because there's a lot of backstory that I have to say here. And my walk with God at the age of 25 became even more potent. And what God has had me do in that time was really try to understand many parts of myself, my connection with Him, how I showed up in the world, and really how I showed up for God and for myself, most importantly. So at age 25, after all the sin I've created previous to that, with the drinking, the drugs, the sexual pleasure, the partying, all that, what I would call fun stuff. Is it fun? I don't know. It left my soul empty. It left my vessel just burning and not understanding why I didn't feel connected within myself. And that was the most important thing in this whole journey, is how I did not feel connected with myself, how I felt disconnected. So God decided, you know what, for my child, I know her best. I need to do something radical and drastic with her. So at the age of 25, I ended up going through thyroid cancer. And as I was on this journey of thyroid cancer at the age of 25, my girlfriend was getting married in Macedonia. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a backstory, because the backstory plays such a huge role on my relationship with Jesus, how I developed my relationship with Jesus. And it wasn't really about reading the Bible. It was really about connecting to the Spirit of God more than anything. And if you're confused about that, you have to watch the first half of this. And so what had happened is, prior to going to Macedonia for my friend's wedding, it was one of those situations where I didn't know if I was going or not, because I received a diagnosis that I had cancer. And being who I am and not wanting anyone to worry, especially my parents, I kept all this to myself. I didn't tell anyone I was going through cancer, yet I would put myself to bed crying. I would call God. God, give me strength. God, I'm not afraid to die. If you want to bring me back home, I'm ready to come back home. But if there's something that I haven't lived, which I really wasn't living at that time fully, other than partying and creating the most sin that I could, then I'm good to stay on this earth realm. And so at the age of 25, when I got diagnosed with thyroid cancer, a lot came to me at that time. And my greatest way of how to deal with this was really to escape it all. It was get on a plane, go to this wedding. And as I booked my plane to go to the wedding, to my friend's wedding, all I could hear was this song playing in my head in the background. I'm leaving on a jet plane, don't know when I'll be back again. And I just kept on hearing this over and over. I booked a 2-week trip, but yet I knew that before booking this trip, I've been to many doctor's appointments by myself. I knew what was going on with me. I didn't want to tell anyone, but I think I feel Spirit saying, let's go a little bit on a backstory even further into this. So prior to all this, I was working at a restaurant, and someone said to me, Zach, you have some lumps on your neck. And I was just like, What do you mean I got lumps on my neck? And they said, look, you have like this lump. You need to get that checked. And it was like, what is this? I don't understand this. So now they're telling me to go even further on the backstory. This all happened. Let me see where they want to take us here. So what had happened when this all happened, my grandfather passed away. Now, my grandfather and I had a very special connection. My grandfather was in the hospital. They told him he was dying. They didn't give him much time to live. They said that he probably had a few months. And this was a time when I was still partying and stuff like that. And my grandfather called my mom and said, listen, I haven't seen that little one in a long time. Do you mind sending her here? Just talking about this is going to bring tears to me. Do you mind sending her back to Greece? Because I really want to see her. But I feel like my grandfather brought me back to Greece because he had a lot to teach me. My grandfather is very tuned in with Jesus, very tuned in with God. I mean, he was one of a holy, holy men. Like if I could do a whole session just talking about my grandfather and how special he is. And so I'm going to go back to that backstory with my grandfather, and that's where they want me to go with this first and foremost. Then I'll get back to the cancer story. So when I went to go see my grandfather, he was apparently in the hospital dying. Like they said he had no time to live. I had to get there fast. He called on a Wednesday. I got back from Mexico. I was gone on a Friday on a plane to Greece because my grandfather said I wanted to see me before he dies. And he wanted to have, I guess, a word with me, a conversation with me. He wanted to be with me. So anyways, so I got to Greece at that time. And I got there in the evening time. And when I got there, no one told me that my grandfather was in the car waiting for me at the airport. They just came and picked me up at the airport. And they were all laughing because I didn't have a clue. And I kept saying, why are you guys laughing at me? And when I got to the car, I was like, boo. Like, that's grandfather in Greek, by the way. I was like, wait, I'm confused. Aren't you supposed to be in the hospital dying? I'm supposed to be coming to the hospital tomorrow to hang out with you. Like, why are you in the car right now? And my grandfather turned to me and said, when I found out you were coming, I start getting better. I start feeling better. And I was like, how is this even possible? What do you mean? Like when you found out that I was coming, you start feeling better? Like this doesn't make any sense to me. So as I was thinking about this yesterday, I feel like my grandfather gave me his gifts, gave me what he and God had tuned into. So anyways, here I am in Greece with my grandfather, and of course living in a village in the middle of December, because it was December. I'll never forget this. It was the greatest party, I'll tell you that right now. I was still in party mode at that time. I was still a sinner, a great old sinner. And I was at the village, and I was just being me. I was like, well, grandfather is good. I might as well go out and party with all my friends out here. I have friends out here. I'm going to go and just have a great old time and get into the cafes, get into the bars. Because I mean, I'm here. Might as well do what I know how to do best. Yet my grandfather had a different trajectory for me. And as I'm sitting here, I could actually feel the spirit of my grandfather laughing at me, because I feel like he was guided by God in some way to bring me to him and to teach me and stuff like that. My grandfather was a shepherd. He had a herd of probably like 200 to 300 sheep. And my uncle was taking care of the sheep at that time. But I didn't realize I was going to learn how to be a shepherd at that time either. So there was times where I was out partying. I was coming home at like 5 a.m. and my grandfather would be like, did you come to Greece to see me, or did you come to Greece to party? And I'm like, well, it looks like you're doing pretty good. So I just came here to party, I guess. Like, you're good. You're good, grandpas. Like, you're good. And at that point, my grandfather said, if you could party till 5 o'clock in the morning, you're going to go get dressed and you're going to go with the sheep. Now, there's a whole significance here when it came to this, because let me tell you, being a shepherd is not an easy task, especially when you come from the city. You're a city girl that knows nothing other than how to live her life in a city way. So here I was, I had to get all dressed up because it's freezing cold up in those mountains. And I'm with my uncle at this time. Oh no, I think my grandfather came out with me actually, now that I'm thinking about it. And here was my grandfather. He was dying, but yet he came with me to herd these sheep. And there was a time my grandfather said, I feel like this is like a Jesus moment with the apostles right now that I'm having this conversation with you guys. My grandfather said, I'll be back. I want you to take care of the sheep. Don't worry, the dogs will help you. And off I went. I had no idea how to whistle. I had no idea how to herd in all these sheep. I had no idea about anything. I didn't know that I would run one way and the sheep would go 10 other different ways. I mean, I had no clue about anything about herding sheep. So what had happened was, here I was on this mountain with 200 to 300 sheep. I have no idea how many, but it felt like a million at that time, to be honest with you, not even 200 to 300. And I start losing sheep left, right, and center. And I'm screaming, oh my God, my grandfather is going to kill me. I'm hurting these sheep, but nothing's happening. And I just start praying, God, help me, because this man is going to kill me. Okay. These are such deep lessons that my grandfather gave me back in the day. So when this all happened, it was that moment that I made really a lot of realizations. This task wasn't easy. My grandfather was going through. I don't know how this man even survived doing this all his life, but he did. And as I was starting to pray to God, and I said, God, I don't know, I'm losing his sheep. 3 men came out with their sheep out of everywhere and said, oh, I know, these sheep don't belong to us. They belong to Philip, my grandfather. But I didn't understand how they knew whose sheep was whose sheep. Like, how do you know? To me, it all looked the same. Their sheep, our sheep, everyone's sheep all looked the same. But these men knew their herd. These men knew whose sheep or whose sheep. But that's something special there, if you really ask me. So they helped me herd in the sheep. They helped me direct the sheep. They were laughing at me. They said, it looks like your grandfather's teaching you a lesson. I'm bawling my eyes out. I have no idea what's going on. And next thing you know, my grandfather just comes out of nowhere. And I was like, don't ever do this to me again. So I wanted to give you that backstory because there's a lot of special moments my grandfather and I had. So after that whole situation, being in Greece, celebrating Christmas, celebrating New Year's, finding out some history of my dad out there, my grandfather said, I'm coming to Canada with you. Now, this is the funny thing. I came to Greece thinking my grandfather was dying. Meanwhile, I was bringing him back to Canada with me. And our bond just became stronger and stronger and stronger. So now fast forward to 5 years later, which is in 1997, after he had passed. After this person told me that they see lumps on my neck and all this stuff, I didn't really pay attention because I'm really not one to run to the doctor. And my grandfather came to me in a dream and he said, you need to go to the doctor, you have cancer. Now, the way he came to me in a dream was via a bird. And it was not in the house that I was living in, and it was the house that I was born in. It was like my dream was that I was at my birth home and my grandfather came to me in a bird in the window, and I could hear his voice so clearly saying, you need to go to the doctors, you have cancer. And of course, that next day, I was like flabbergasted as why would I have this dream that I have cancer? And then this lady started talking about lumps. So everything started to make sense to me. My grandfather was my guardian angel at that time. And still is my guardian angel because I could hear him laughing at this whole story because he taught me a lot of great lessons. And I went to the doctor and lo and behold, yes, I had thyroid cancer. And this is where the real journey and the real connection with God happened because I wasn't afraid to die. Death to me was just death. Death is a process. We're all going to go through it. We come from the soil. We go back to the soil. It's not something that fears me. It's something that it's what I call, it's just all part of life. It's a sad situation, but yet I remember that moment. So as I was going through the doctors and now I jump on a plane to go to Macedonia, that song plays in my head, you're leaving on a jet plane, don't know when I'll be back again. I get to Macedonia, 3 days later, I extend my 2-week trip into 2 months. 2 months. I don't call no doctors. I really don't care what's going on. No one has a clue what's happening with me. It's just me and God at this time. And I'm going to fast forward this because I want to get up to the age of 40 here because there's a lot that I have to cover. And here I am in Macedonia at my friend's wedding. They've all left post-wedding, everything like that. And I'm still there and I'm at the well. And as I'm at the well and I'm brushing my teeth, I could see the Last Supper. I literally visually could see that I'm at the Last Supper. And I thought, okay, so I'm about to die and I'm cool with that. But did I truly live? Did I truly do everything I wanted to do in this life? And the answer just kept on coming back to no. And it was like God saying, are you ready to go or do you want to continue living? And I said, well, I want to continue living. And I recall the day when God said, did you do everything? Or how did I can't remember. I really wish I journaled all this stuff out because it would have been so much easier. I'm just going on memory and just going with God's telling me. And it was one of those situations where God said, I will spare your life because I have bigger projects for you, basically. I have a bigger life for you that you can't imagine this. So here I am in Europe by myself, calling home. My sister's like, listen, your doctor's calling you. Like, what's up? Nothing. Don't worry about it. I'm telling I'll be home in 2 months. And I didn't tell anyone about this. My parents were in Europe with me for a couple of weeks. They ended up leaving. I call home. They're like, listen, what is going on? The doctor keeps on calling. Nothing. Don't worry about it. I'll be home in October. And I was just on this journey traveling through Greece. It was, again, me and God, really getting clear with my head, really getting clear with what was going on in my life, really getting clear of why God put me on this earth other than to sin, because we're all great sinners. We are definitely all great sinners. I mean, the first 25 years of my life, I did really well in sinning. But then I knew that I had a greater purpose because God told me that sitting at the well. And I didn't know what this purpose was. I didn't understand the purpose. I didn't understand my gifts. I just knew I could connect with God. I connect with higher consciousness, if you want to call it, divine intelligence, whatever you want to call it. But then there was more to this. And I remember that time I said, Jesus, I give my life to you. And as I'm saying this again, I want to cry about this. So I said, Jesus, I want to give my life to you. Whatever it is that you need to teach me, I'm open to it. I will once a year on Easter, because I love Easter and I've grown up like this, I will give 40 days of living this vegan lifestyle, praying and stuff like that. And it wasn't just the 40 days, it was the beginning of a new beginning. And so here I was in Greece, just working through all my emotions, working through my fears, working through my relationship with God at this time. And it just became this bond that I had with God on such a different level. When I'm saying God, I mean Jesus at the same time, because Jesus to me is God at the same time. And so here I was ready to conquer the world, or was the world ready to conquer me, because I didn't know what was going to come next. And 2 months trip, I came home. And I remember I landed on a Sunday and I called the doctor on Monday. And he said to me, I need to have an emergency appointment with you. I need to see you tomorrow. He said, I can't believe you were gone for so long. When we have such an emergency that has to take place, you could be losing your voice box. And I said, if I lose it, I lose it. It's all in God's hands at this time. I have no fear towards anything. And I went to the doctors and he told me the surgery is going to be on Friday. So I really didn't have enough time to think about that. And the best part of it is my family didn't have enough time to think about it. It wasn't about me thinking about it. I already went through the process of what I was going to go through. It was, how do I tell my parents that I am going through cancer without them basically losing their mind or living in the fear of the word cancer, because everyone hears that word cancer and we all start to live in this place of fear. And so I got back from the doctors and I put a kind of a family meeting together and I sat everyone down. I said, listen, I just got back from the doctor. It's bringing me back to that day. I just got back from the doctor. I'm going into surgery on Friday. I have a 4-hour surgery. I have cancer and it's all in my throat. And you could tell everyone was just shocked, Like, how could she not tell us? But I didn't want anyone to worry about what I was going through because I knew that I was in good hands with God. And that's all I needed to do. So I had some visions and dreams that scared me because in my visions and dreams, I saw me waking up in the middle of surgery and I see this cloth on me and I see the doctor working on my neck and I see me going just absolutely crazy. So I tell my sister to come with me and I said to her, you need to tell the doctor this. Like, I know for a fact I won't be able to do it. So Friday rolls around. My dad, of course, my rock, and my sister drive me to the hospital. And waiting there for hours. And of course, me being the comedian, I'm gonna start calling people, cracking up jokes, doing things, because this is the way I deal with pain. This is the way I deal with my own personal suffering. And one thing leads to another. So they call my name into surgery. And I said to my sister, come with me. Man, let me tell you, as I'm saying this story, I could feel me walking down that dark hallway. It was cold. It was dark. It felt depressing. And we walk into the operating room and I thought, this is exactly like my dream. Everything is like my dream. I looked to my sister and I said, you got to tell the doctor to put me out because I know for a fact I am going to continuously be waking up while he's cutting my throat. And I said to her, you need to make sure that he understands. He needs to constantly make sure that I'm not going to wake up because I know that there's something going on, but I know that this is going to happen. And my sister was just telling him, like, listen, telling him the story. And he goes, I assure you, she will not wake up. Once we put the anesthetic in her, she'll be out cold. Well, little did they know that anesthetic doesn't work with God. God wants you up. God will wake you up. So a 4-hour surgery turned into a 6-hour surgery. They had to call the anesthesiologist to stay in the room because they couldn't keep me under. They kept on pumping anesthetic in me every 10 minutes because every 10 minutes I wanted to wake up. I'll tell you why that happened later on once I get through this part of the story. And when the surgery was over 6 hours later, they put me into the recovery room. And I'll never forget, it was 6:10 at that time. And I could hear this Chinese man beside me. I'll never forget that he was just making these sounds. And I opened my eyes and I said, nurse. And I thought like she was going to die when she turned around. She just looked at me like, what are you doing awake? You just came out of surgery 10 minutes ago. I said, nurse, where's my doctor? I want to know what happened. Like, I want to know how many lumps I had. I want to know how much cancer was in me. And my neck was literally up to here. And it was just one of those things that everyone called a miracle, and I just call it God. I literally call it God. So years later, what I learned is that I had a walk-in take over my body. So my spirit left me and a new spirit came through, and that's why they couldn't keep me under. That was that part of the story. So when my doctor came in, he looked at me, he goes, how are you awake? He said, you should be sleeping. We put enough anesthetic in you that you should be sleeping for literally 1 week. How are you awake? You're a miracle. And I said, that's just God. That's God. That's God in the making. And everyone thinks you're crazy when you talk about God because no one really knows the huge impact of God until you've lived that story with him. And life went on after that. You know, you live, you grow, you start healing, you start to recognize. I was in the hospital. I was taking the drugs just to take the drugs. Not that I needed the drugs. I wasn't in any pain. I wasn't in any suffering. But hey, stick something in there. Let me get high, you know. I was still in that place of sinning. Even though God was with me, I was still in that place of sinning. See, you could take the kid out of the ghetto, but kind of the ghetto out of the kid type of a situation, right? So I was still in that place of sinning because they were just like, are you feeling pain? Yeah, I'll take that shot. And then go in your bum and you're just like so in la la land. But what they'd said to me was, we need to release you early. You're healed. You're healed 4 days prior to what we thought. But what had happened to me is because of the amount of drugs that I've taken that I really shouldn't have taken, I had a huge impact. And I start getting suicidal thoughts and visions of me getting murdered and stuff like that. That's a whole other story. We'll go in there. So that was at the age of 25. And life just became like, okay, God, like take me through this journey. But what I didn't understand is that the closer you got to God, the harder the enemy would attack you. And my mom said this to me when I said to her, I gave my life to Jesus. She said, oh, get ready for the enemy to attack you, because the more you give your life to God, the more the enemy will attack you. And I'm new to this whole situation. And I'm saying this because it was something that I had to keep in mind. So what had happened now, 25, now I'm going through it. I stopped drinking. I stopped partying a little bit. I'm really taking care of my mind, my body, my spirit. I'm meditating. I'm praying the Lord's Prayer, because that's what I've known all my life, is just to say the Lord's Prayer. And 5 years later, my dad passes away. So at the age of 30, my dad passes away. He went through cancer, and my rock now is gone. What does that mean to me? I have the depression gene in my body, which means I'm going through depression again for another 5 years. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I didn't want to be around people. When my dad died, I felt a part of me leave. Remember, if you watched this yesterday, I was my dad's curse, right? But yet I was the biggest blessing to both. Like, we were the blessing for one another at the end of the day. So my dad passed away, a part of me left with him, and I didn't know how to deal with that part. It was heavy. It was sad. I didn't want to talk to people. I didn't want to work. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to be in the space of suicide. I really thought a lot about committing suicide at this time, but yet something inside of me, which was God, kept on saying, no, it's not your turn to go. And I don't know how I would overcome the suicidal thoughts. It was like people were always kind of saving me. So this was happening up to the age of 35. And then I came out of that. It was like, okay, I'm ready to work. I'm ready to do God's work. I'm ready to start creating. And I opened up my colon hydrotherapy clinic at that time, and it was glorious. I loved every minute of it. It was fun. I was doing something different. Yes, I'm looking at people's backsides, but at the same time, I was doing energy clearing. I was helping people. And the depression got really hard. And this is when I know my dad was with me, because my brother and sister-in-law just gave birth to their second child, and her birthday is April 12th. So my dad's April 4th, I'm April 8th, and she's April 12th. And this is not no coincidence at this point. Like, this is, to me, there is no coincidence how that this is all happening. And at that point, it was hard. I pulled myself out of depression, but then here I am falling back into it again, because my colon hydrotherapy clinic all of a sudden just stopped. People stopped coming to me. I didn't understand why. But prior to that, God had a bunch of people just bring me money, and they never showed up for their appointments. So I was just like, I don't understand this. I don't understand what's happening. Like, did my name get tarnished? Did parts of me out there were people talking about me? Like, I don't understand. I've given the best of service. I did the best I can. Like, what had happened here? So, of course, at that time, I ended up going into another depression. Remember, I got the depression gene in my body. And I just kept on fighting even more, like, God, what's up? And this time, the suicidal thoughts were even deeper within me. Like, they were so powerful that every time I would say, today's the day I'm going to take my life, literally my niece would come and be like, just loving on me and wiping my tears. And as a 2-year-old child saying to me, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. So I knew my dad sent me my niece through my sister-in-law, and she just became my angel. And this is the time, we're at the age of 40. So I just want to stop here for a minute, because the age 40 the age 39 was the most pivotal time of my life, when I really realized how the enemy could really suck you in. And all I can say is the Lord's Prayer at this time and Psalm 23 over and over and over again. And as I would say, now that I walk through the valley of shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and staff protect me, and all that stuff. Like, I just kept on saying, I can't even say it right now, because I just wanted to get to the story. And I just kept on repeating it over and over between the Lord's Prayer and Psalm 23. And I was just flushing things out of me. You would find me in church just praying at the picture of Jesus, just saying, God, like, just protect me, watch over me. What are these thoughts coming through to me? And it just kept on getting harder and harder and harder. And I didn't understand. My business suffered. I was going through a hard time. I had to get back into the restaurant industry. Everything around me was starting to crumble. I didn't understand half of the things that were going on in my life. But all I knew was that I held on to my faith. I held on to what I call the foundation of God. I would read still my Bible. I would open up pages and say, God, just tell me, direct me where you want me to go. And I would read scripture and I would feel the energy just clearing off of me. I cried a lot. I would go into memories of all certain things. And this is the time where I was doing a lot of fasting. I was doing a lot of praying. I was doing a lot of retrospective work on trying to figure out parts of me. But just everything felt like collapsed on top of my chest. And this is at the age of 39. And God then decided to put me on a whole different mission after that. And I never gave up. And that's the thing. What I want to say to you, if you've gone this far, thank you for getting this far. But what I want to say to you is never give up on yourself. The thoughts will be there, but God is right beside you. The prayers could save you. My niece protected me. I know for a fact that God sent me an angel coming through my sister-in-law. My niece spent 10 years with me, first 10 years of her life with me. And I feel like that was a blessing that my dad brought down to me. We're all very similar, my niece, my dad, and I. And it was like, never give up on yourself, because at the end of the day, there's something deeper inside of you. And the enemy is striking you so hard. It's because the enemy doesn't want you to recognize what God has placed inside of you and how powerful you are and how you have the strength inside of you to overcome any challenges, to overcome any mental health stuff. And I'm saying this because, as I've been saying from the whole 20 minutes of talking here, it was that spirit that tried to take me out, but yet it was prayer and God that would bring me people and bring me that peace and bring me that calm to recognize that there is more to this life, that this gift that I had wasn't that curse that I thought it was. It was actually a blessing. And I'll talk about that whole thing that I thought the gift was a curse. Me giving my life to Jesus was the craziest thing, but yet the best blessing. There was so much that I had to go through, but at the same time, I felt like I had no one to speak to about this, because remember, I come from a Greek Orthodox family, which thinks that this gift is not by God. And oh man, there's so much more that I want to discuss right now, but I'm just going to keep it to this. So if you are going through anything, just know that you could overcome it. Just know that you have the power and will within you. You just have to find it. And you find that in prayer. You find it in gratitude. You find it in your knowingness. You find it in God, because God is the creator of all things. God knows how he created you. God knows what he built inside of you. So renew yourself, rebirth yourself on a daily basis. Give your life to God on a daily basis. Every day I wake up and I say, thank you, Lord, for this day. And I give so much that I'm grateful for on a daily basis. And that is the most important thing. I give gratitude for my pain, and I give gratitude for my suffering as well. So continue thriving in knowing this, that in that dip, in that dark, in that place where you feel like you have no more fuel to give, that there is light. All you need is that little bit of light to get you through, because that little bit of light could shine so bright that it will take away any darkness away from you. So understand that you have the strength, you have the power, and you have the will inside of you, and you cannot allow the enemy to take you out, because the enemy knows that the gift that God put inside of you is a gift that could help many people out in the world. So thank you for watching this far. If you've gotten this far, leave any comments of what resonated. I know this story was kind of winded, but I should have written down the way God wanted me to speak through this whole story at 2 o'clock in the morning. But everything is here and just. And thank you for watching. Catch me tomorrow until I give you the next 12 years of how I got out of depression, got back into depression, pulled myself out of depression, lost everything in my life, and just continued to where I am today. So have a good one. Bye for now.